The courage to be seen, stepping out from your own protective shadows. Why does the very thing you crave, being truly seen, feel like a risk you are not sure you can take? At some point, you learn to protect yourself by becoming smaller, quieter, less visible, and for a while, that protection worked. It helped you navigate uncertainty. It helped you avoid judgment. It helped you stay safe. But over time, what once felt like safety begins to feel like limitation. The same protection that once held you together slowly begins to hold you back. Many of us build a quiet system of invisibility, not intentionally, but through repetition. We hold back our ideas. We soften our opinions. We wait for the right moment that never quite arrives. And eventually, staying unseen begins to feel normal. The mind reinforces this pattern because to the brain, being overlooked feels safer than being judged. Remaining invisible reduces risk. It avoids rejection. It avoids criticism. It avoids discomfort. But this safety comes with a hidden cost. When you consistently choose to stay small, you also begin to shrink your own sense of worth. Not all at once, but gradually, because the part of you that wants to be expressed is repeatedly being silenced, and over time, that silence becomes heavy. There is a version of safety that feels comfortable, but quietly limits your life. You move through your days without drawing attention. You speak when it feels safe. You hold back when uncertainty appears. And on the surface, everything feels stable. But beneath that stability, tension begins to build because you are capable of more, but living within less. Modern environments often reinforce this pattern. Digital spaces reward familiarity. The more something fits, the more easily it is accepted. So many people adjust themselves to blend in. They reshape their voice. They refine their image. They present versions of themselves that feel easier for others to receive. Not because they lack depth, but because they are trying to avoid rejection. And in that process, something important is lost: authentic connection. Because when everyone is performing, no one feels fully seen. Quiet safety protects you from immediate discomfort, but it also distances you from the life that requires your full presence. At some point, you are forced to confront what is underneath. Doubt. The specific fears that keep you anchored in the shadows. Fear of being judged. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of not being enough once you are fully visible. These fears do not always speak loudly. They show up in hesitation, in overthinking, in the subtle decision to hold back instead of step forward. And over time, they shape your behavior. They create a version of you that feels controlled, contained, and incomplete. This is where the imposter narrative begins to form. The belief that if you step forward, someone will see what you lack. But that perspective is incomplete because your visibility is not only about you, it is also about what you offer, your experiences, your perspective, your understanding of the world. These things have value, not because they are perfect, but because they are real. When you shift your view of visibility, something begins to change. It stops feeling like exposure and begins to feel like contribution, not performance, but presence. And from that shift, courage becomes possible, not as a sudden leap, but as a series of small, intentional steps. You begin bridging the gap between who you are in private and how you show up in public. Not by forcing visibility, but by allowing it gradually. You speak when you would normally stay silent. You share before everything feels perfectly polished. You allow your voice to exist without over-editing it. These are micro doses of courage. Each moment retrains your nervous system. Being seen is not a threat. It is simply unfamiliar. And with repetition, unfamiliar becomes normal. There is also an alignment that must take place. Your internal identity and your external actions must begin to match. If you believe you are capable, but continue to hide, that gap creates tension. But when your actions begin to reflect your inner truth, that tension dissolves. Your presence begins to feel stable, not forced, not performative, but natural. And over time, something shifts. You stop asking whether you are allowed to take up space. You begin occupying it without apology, without constant self-adjustment, without shrinking to make others comfortable, because you realize something important. Your presence is not something you need to earn. It is something you allow. And as you begin to live this way, your environment changes. You naturally attract people who value honesty over performance. Connection deepens. Expression expands. Community begins to form around truth instead of image. This is the beginning of a different way of living, a life where your visibility is not occasional, but consistent, not forced, but aligned. You are no longer hiding parts of yourself to stay safe. You are allowing yourself to be seen because it is true. And in that truth, something powerful emerges. Not perfection, not performance, but authenticity. Radiant, grounded, and fully your own. Because in the end, the courage to be seen is not about becoming someone new. It is about allowing who you have always been to finally exist in the open.